Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the John Campea Show here on my YouTube channel. I am, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an honor and a privilege, as it is every day, to have you guys joining me here as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and television, and some other things once in a while that come up as well. And I'm so glad that you guys are here. Now, here's how today's show is going to go. I have picked out 3 topics that you guys have emailed to me telling me you want talked about. How do you send in a topic or a question to be on the John Campea Show? It's simple. You just email me anytime at john@thejohncampeashow.com. Put the word topic in the subject line and keep your email as short as possible, guys. 90 words or less. Now, after we're done those, I'm going to go over to the live chat to take a couple questions from the live chat. Of course, you guys can use the super chat feature, and that is also a great way to support the channel. Thank you so much to you guys who send in those topics. And with all that out of the way, should be mentioned here, the Venom trailer dropped. Now, I'm going to do a full review breakdown, much like I did for the Deadpool one. That's going to come up an hour or two, maybe 2.5 hours after this show is done. I'm going to do a full breakdown, but I will at least, I'd be remiss if I didn't at least give my first impression. Loved it. And here's why. I think one of the reasons I was so impressed with it is because it is so different. Like, one of the things that I was kind of expecting, and hey, I would have ate this up too. I would have been into this too, was just like the traditional comic book, rah, explosion, action, swinging, blah, blah. Like, that's what I was expecting. And, you know, me, I'm kind of simple. I like that stuff. So I would have been cool with that too. But they went for something totally different. They went for a horror / sci-fi thriller vibe that focused on concept and themes. Like, the whole narration through it is whether it's an accident, a loss, or whatever. One day you're one thing and the next day you're something else. And I just thought that was so well laid out. Not what I was expecting at all from this trailer. And I just gotta say, I'm far more ballsy than I thought Sony would be with it. Far more gutsy. Like, what I see Sony doing with Venom from this trailer, and I'm not going to go into it much, I'll talk more about it later, but I feel like they're taking notes from what Fox has been doing, which is, hey, you know what? Push the genre. Push the envelope of the genre. You know, when they did gritty Western with Logan, or when they're going for like straight horror, like indie horror feel for New Mutants or what have you. And I felt like they went, you know what, let's not do... Now, this is all a lot of impressions just from a teaser. I admit that. Yes, yes, yes. But the impression it did give me was like, they went, you know what, let's not just do another paint-by-numbers comic book movie. Let's really take what is unique about Venom and go in that direction and push the envelope that way. And again, the sci-fi thriller aspect of it, the horror nature of it, the fact that they just focused on the character and on the concept rather than relying on a cheap fan appeasement of just throwing a cheap shot of Venom going, rah! Which, don't get me wrong, if they had put that in there, I would have been happy too. But the gutsy nature of it, and of course, the movie's still 8 months away. So there's plenty of time, no need to reveal the Venom design at this point yet. Hey, look, and it's like most movies, it's not going to be for everybody, but I gotta tell you, I'm actually pretty impressed. I'm really impressed with the direction they decided to go. So anyway, that's just me. Okay, with that out of the way, and I'm sure you guys will have some comments about that too. With that out of the way, let's jump into question number 1 today. And question number 1 comes to us from Mr. Yasman3000 writings. Greetings, John, and how do you do? Well, I do quite well, Mr. Yasman, thank you. I've been seeing people online criticizing Lucasfilm because they hired the showrunners for Game of Thrones because they are white males. Why are they overreacting? Yes, representation matters, and Lucasfilm said they want to bring in a bigger set of diverse filmmakers, but we weren't at those meetings. All right, thanks a lot for the question, Yasman. And here's the thing. Look, let me just be honest with you guys. A bunch of you guys have written me about this, saying, you see the backlash against the Game of Thrones guys, see the backlash. I was tempted to not talk about this topic because it's touchy. But, you know, me, I'm just like, screw it. I don't care if it's touchy. I'm just going to give my opinion on it and we're going to talk about it. And hopefully we can talk about it because this could be a trigger issue. Let's talk about it with some calmness and some civility. Okay. So I started seeing these emails people were sending to me saying, did you see like all these people being mad at the Game of Thrones writers being brought on to write and produce some new Star Wars movies because they're white and they're guys. And I admit, at first I just brushed those messages that you guys sent to me off because I was thinking, what is often the case, okay, some losers on Twitter tweeting stuff or some whatever. I mean, look, never take the fragment of a percentage and think that represents people. And I kind of wrote it off. But then I still got more messages from you guys about it. So I thought, let me look around. And I saw some notable websites actually perpetuating this idea that it was wrong for Star Wars to hire these guys. And really, when you read through the article, you realize their biggest beef here is that they're white. And that's the crux of the objection, that these guys are white. It's a bad decision because they're white. So again, look, let me just say again, this is clearly a topic that could get out of hand and people can start yelling and screaming, and let's just take a breath, okay? Here are my thoughts on this. If you guys have been watching me for any period of time, you know I firmly believe in the expansion of opportunities, especially in Hollywood, for both in front and behind the cameras, for filmmakers, professionals who aren't male, who aren't white, to expand opportunities. That representation does matter. It's important. And I have been talking about that to the point that every single day I've got some brain-dead Neanderthal writing, "You're just a social justice warrior." Okay, go crawl back onto your cousin. And so you guys know my feelings on that. Representation matters. More opportunities need to be created and given to people who aren't straight up white males in filmmaking, both in front of and behind the camera. You know that's a principle I believe in. However, the idea or the concept of taking that principle and going to an extreme of saying, regardless of qualification, your color, in this case, white guys, that some people are suggesting, should disqualify you from this opportunity. Now, I think both ends, the pendulum can swing too far either way. And it was disheartening for me as somebody who does, like, I don't subscribe to any one political theory, but you would be fair to say that I lean left. Sure, you can say that. Although I don't qualify myself as a liberal or a conservative or whatever, but you can fairly say that I lean left. Okay, that's fair. But even for somebody like me, I think there is a danger of swinging the pendulum too far. And it's a little bit disheartening to me to see some notable websites perpetuating the notion that we should automatically dismiss somebody or disqualify somebody simply because they're white, especially in a situation when you get somebody as uniquely qualified as these two particular guys. When you're talking about Weiss and Benioff, you're talking about two guys that between them have over 10 Emmy Awards. David wrote The Kite Runner, which was one of the most impressive screenplays I've read in a long time for a film. You're talking about guys who have spearheaded a television show that has revolutionized television and has the biggest pop culture influence of any TV show I think I've ever seen in my life, as Game of Thrones is, and what they've done with Game of Thrones, and things like that. Then take into consideration, a lot of people have been saying, we're looking for like a Game of Thrones kind of Star Wars thing. So then the hiring of these two guys, 10 Emmys between them, massively remapped the pop culture landscape with their programming, all that kind of stuff. And they get brought on to write and produce, not direct, but write and produce Star Wars films. And the first knee-jerk reaction from some people is this is a bad choice because they're white and they're guys. And I reject that line of thinking. I reject that line of thinking. Now, don't get me wrong. Here's the thing. If they say, oh, I don't know, let's say they got Josh Trank, right? who did a really good job. You know, I'm a big fan of what Josh Trank did with Chronicle, but then things fell apart with Star Wars, and he hasn't really done anything since, blah, blah, blah. If this was a situation where you had, let's say it came down to either Josh Trank or Ryan Coogler, right? Ryan Coogler, who's on a hot streak. He has a history of success. He doesn't have just one great film in his pocket. He's got 3 great films in his pocket that he's done. He's done different genres, because you look at Fruitvale Station, and then you look at Creed, and then you look at Black Panther, 3 completely different movies, super high skill set. Now, if this were a situation where it came down to those 2 guys and they decided to go with the white dude who clearly had a lesser, inferior resume and all that kind of stuff, even then I would go, okay, wait a minute here. Like, how, forget the color of their skin, how did you pick that guy over this guy? That looks funny. Even I would do that. I would say that. But it's disheartening to me that people equate the conversation of making sure that Hollywood starts to open up more opportunities for people who just ain't pasty white dudes like me, and make sure we move in that direction. It's a different thing. That's not connected to. That is a different thing from saying, hey, these guys, no matter how impressive their resumes, no matter how many statues are on their mantles, no matter how many awards and accolades they've won, no matter how pop culturally significant their programming has been, they're white, therefore this is bad that they've been hired. Those are 2 different things. And I kind of feel bad for Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm, because they are getting it in both holes without lube right now, okay? Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm are getting it in both holes without lube, because on the one hand, on the one side, you got this pack of racist, homophobic, sexist misogynists yelling at them, you put a girl in the lead, you social justice warriors, you put a black guy as one of the main characters, you social justice warriors, why aren't there more white guys in Rogue One? You're social justice warriors. So on the one hand, you've got this army of Goombas coming at them and just like with all this ridiculous nonsense. So they're getting hammered from that one side, and now they're getting hammered from the other side too. It's like one side is screaming at them, you're way too SJW. And now we've got the other side yelling at them, you're not SJW enough. And I like neither extremes are very rarely healthy. And again, I just kind of feel for Lucasfilm at this point, because it's like, okay, this is the epitome of damned if you do, damned if you don't. Because, you know, like Star Wars has been taking steps, is one of the franchises that's been taking steps, especially in front of the camera at least, to start with, about expanding our understanding of what can be lead characters from just white males. And they've been pushing those boundaries and doing great things. And, you know, these guys who knows who they'll get to direct these new Star Wars films, but these guys have been brought on to write and produce because they are uniquely qualified. They have an incredibly impressive resume. They're going to be 2 of the most sought after talents in the business. They get hired, and then we have a group of people criticizing the hire because of the color of their skin. And I just think that one is not equating to the other. Having a purpose of trying to expand Hollywood beyond just everything is pasty white dudes, to including more women both in front and behind the camera, create more opportunities for people who aren't white in front of and behind the cameras, because there are just as many, if not more so talented people that aren't just white dudes in those things. But that is not the same thing. It's not equated to, well, then therefore anybody who is white or of a particular color should be disqualified because of their color. And I am not a supporter of either one of those extremes. And to be honest with you, in the whole, you know, goal, in the whole mission of trying to help propel Hollywood to becoming more inclusive, more representation, it's actually counterproductive to that movement to start up with stuff like this. To me, it's actually counterproductive. Change happens when gradually over time you win people over. And you don't win people over by becoming more divisive, I guess. And I don't know. Again, let's just call it what it is. I'm far too stupid of a person to really be able to grasp how the enormity of this situation. And I'm certainly far too stupid of a person to be able to come up with solutions to it or know what is right or know what is wrong. I'm too stupid. But I do have an opinion on this. And my opinion on this is that Hollywood needs to continue to be urged and pushed forward in the idea of more representation, of more inclusion, of not disqualifying people from roles because they're women, not disqualifying people from roles in front of behind the camera just because they don't have white skin. But the answer to that is not to swing the pendulum completely the other way, where we start saying things like, these guys aren't good for Star Wars because they're white. And look, maybe I'm dead wrong. Before you call me stupid, let me just beat you to it. I know I'm stupid. I know I'm dumb. I know this is stuff that's way beyond my pay grade. I understand that. But enough of you guys asked me about it. There's my opinion. So there's what I think, and I'm sure I made everybody unhappy. I made everybody on the left completely unhappy with me. I just made everybody on the right completely unhappy with me, but I don't care. You asked my opinion, there it is, and I acknowledge I may be way too stupid to be able to properly grasp the whole thing. You guys are going to have your own opinions, and that's great, but there's mine. All right, guys. Sorry I went on about that, but I want to be very careful about how I articulated that, because again, this very easily could be a trigger kind of issue. You got to be very cautious around things like these, and I hope I explained myself well. You don't have to agree with my opinion, but at least I hope I explained my position well. Okay, let's move on into the next question. And the next question comes to us from Oscar A. Veloz, who writes, "Hey, John, been a big fan for a long time, and I watch you all the time." Well, thank you so much, Oscar. I appreciate that. "Have you heard about the new Dr. Dolittle movie with Robert Downy Jr., Selena Gomez, where'd he go? Tom Holland, and Emma Thompson. What do you think?" Yeah, actually, a huge cast list just came out for that. I meant to bring this up earlier, and I forgot to have it ready. Dr. Dolittle, IMDb, because it's more than just the people you mentioned. I mean, the actual cast list is really, really impressive. So, of course, we got Robert Downy Jr., Tom Holland, Ralph Fiennes, he's Voldemort in Harry Potter. Ralph Fiennes is simply one of the finest actors on the planet. He's not your prototypical leading A-list celebrity leading actor guy, but he is just flat out one of the finest actors on the planet. He has to be in the conversation. No, he's not better than Daniel Day-Lewis, but he's in the conversation with Daniel Day-Lewis, Tom Hanks, Russell Crowe, guys like that, Denzel Washington, Chiwetel Ejiofor. I just think like Ralph Fiennes has to be in that conversation. You got Selena Gomez. Now she's just doing a voice. So is Ralph Fiennes. So is Tom Holland. Michael Sheen is in it, which I love. Emma Thompson, Antonio Banderas, Jim Broadbent, who I absolutely love Jim Broadbent. So it's a really impressive looking cast. They've actually been talking and whispering about Robert Downy Jr. doing a Dr. Dolittle for, oh gosh, I feel like 5 years we've been talking about this issue. We've been talking about RDJ doing something like this. And I honestly started to feel like, well, this is never going to happen. And then all of a sudden, here comes the announcement of the cast and everything like that. It's scheduled to come out in 2019. I think it's great. This could be a really fun, magical kind of film that is just really makes you feel great. And it's got that potential, especially if you understand the original and where they could go with something in a more modern setting, or at least using modern technology to do it. This could be really fun. And I'm excited about it. I'm looking forward to it. And again, it's going to be interesting to see what kind of a draw Robert Downy Jr. actually is when he's not wearing an Iron Man suit. Because remember, he did that one movie, The Judge, and it tanked. Just tanked. So it's going to be interesting to see what kind of a draw he is. I think he's going to do great in this movie. I'm looking forward to it. All right, let's move on now to the final emailed in question today. And the final email question in today comes to us from Nathan Walker, who writes, "Hey, John, been a huge fan since the AMC days and watch every day. What do you make of Infinity War, Deadpool 2, and Solo all releasing in the same month, May 4th, 18th, and 25th? Will it help the box office with them all going after a similar audience so close together, or will it hurt their numbers? Your thoughts?" Okay, yeah. We are like looking. It is hard to imagine that basically within a 3-week window, plus a couple of days, we're going to get Solo: A Star Wars Story, Deadpool 2, and Avengers: Infinity War. Not in that order. But we're going to get these 3 big, exciting, blockbuster films that, I mean, it's just nuts to think about that. We're getting an Avengers movie, a Star Wars movie, and Deadpool all in this one very finite window of time, which is just crazy. Now, whether or not, you know, the question comes up, are these 3 films being so close to each other going to hurt each other? Okay, you always know that my feeling is the way the modern cinema works, 2 week separation is enough. It's good enough. 2 week separation is good enough. 1 week is tight, but 2 week separation is usually enough. So we've got a 2 week separation between Avengers and I believe Solo. I believe Solo is the one coming out on the 18th. Yes. So we got a 2 week window there. So that's fine. Then just 1 week until Deadpool. Could that hurt Deadpool? Like if Solo, a Star Wars story, gets really great reviews and great word of mouth, could that hurt Deadpool's opening weekend? Could Deadpool get great reviews and positive word of mouth and just slam Solo dead in its tracks when it gets into its second week and see something like a 75% drop at the box office, something like that? Who knows? This is going to be a really interesting case study to me about my whole theory of two things. Are they big films close to each other that are going after similar demographics? Yes, they are. That's what's working against it. But I also believe that they've got a couple things working for them. Number one, May is a month that a lot of people go to the movies. So, I mean, yes, there's more fishermen in that fishing hole, but the fact of the matter is there's more fish in that fishing hole. So that could mean that there's still more than enough to go around. That even though there's more fishermen there, you may actually go home with more fish if you fish there. There's more people going. A lot of people go to the theaters. The other theory you guys know that I have is this. If Avengers Infinity War, and I think this is what Disney's playing on, if Avengers Infinity War is a great, big, blockbuster, spectacle, fun film that the audience loves going to, then you know my belief. Then they are going to be more primed to come back to the theater real soon. Like when I went to, I don't go to many LA Clippers games, but I went to an LA Clippers game and I'm like, oh my God, this was a lot of fun. I want to come back and do this again. And then I got tickets and I came back to see another game like 10 days later. And so that's the thing. If you go and have a great experience, you're more likely to come back. So theoretically, if people come out and watch Infinity Wars and they're just stoked to hell, they had a great time at the theater, the first thing they're going to be thinking when they're walking out is, what's the next movie I can come back to? What's the next experience I can come back to? There's a Star Wars movie in 2 weeks. Fantastic. And it could actually benefit. If Solo then crushes it and knocks it out of the park, then again, that could play well into Deadpool. It could actually be beneficial to Deadpool. You combine that with the fact that so many people go to the movies in May, and you got these blockbusters which are just going to draw more people in. Here's an interesting little analogy. I live in Burbank, like just about a 5-minute walk, 10-minute walk from downtown Burbank. And there's like 1,000 restaurants. I mean, it's all restaurants. If you're a foodie and you like to eat, downtown Burbank is like the place to be. There's like every kind of food imaginable, and it's all right there. So you would think that, wow, opening up a restaurant down here is like business suicide because there's so many other restaurants, so much competition, it's going to hurt. But what has actually worked out, because I was talking to somebody who was a Burbank native for a long time, and they were basically saying what happened is as more restaurants open down there, people just knew if you want to eat, that's where you go, is you go to downtown Burbank. And more people started coming in. And now you walk around downtown Burbank, it's just filled with people going into restaurants or the movie theater. And it's great. And that's kind of the same. They're hoping, at least at any rate, that same principle is going to carry over into the movies. That, hey, May is going to be packed with all these great films, only increasing the feeling that, hey, now's a good time to go to the movie theater. We're going to find out in 3 months if that works or not. We're going to find out in 3 months. If Avengers Infinity War does great and all of a sudden drops off severely when Solo comes out, if Solo gets really crushed by Deadpool 2, if Deadpool 2 doesn't do so well because there's Avengers and Solo are both in the theater at the same time, then we're going to know that little social experiment doesn't work. I think it will. I think all three of these films are going to do pretty well. Again, I don't think Solo is going to do magnificent. I believe Deadpool will make more money than Solo. But I think there's going to be a really interesting thing to see and watch as things unfold. All right, guys, that will do it for the emailed in questions part of the show. I'm going to go over now and take some of the live questions. By the way, guys, if you have not sent in a live question, if you've not sent in a super chat yet, do not send in any more super chats. I'm going to look at the last one here. It comes from N8V Pride. So N8V Pride is the last one I'm going to take. Came in at 824. That's the last one I'm going to take. Please don't send in any more. Okay, with that out of the way, let's jump over to the live questions and comments that you guys have been sending in. And we're going to start off with Mason Barr, who writes in, Venom. I hope for Carnage someday. I still want Jim Carrey, but will never happen. You know what? Don't necessarily think that. Like, I remember a lot of people thinking, oh my gosh, Jon Favreau did such a great job with Jungle Book. He should do Lion King. It seems like unlikely that they do that, but sometimes the dream scenario does work. I happen to agree. I mean, look, you know me, ex-actor as long as ex-actor is talented. But if you told me tomorrow that Jim Carrey has been cast as Carnage, I think that was great. I think it was great. Don't discount it. Don't think it's so impossible. I don't think it's impossible. I'm not saying he's going to get cast, but Mason, don't discount your dream just yet. I think it's possible. Ben Rayner writes, after the teaser, over or under 15% that Peter Parker has a cameo in Venom, I'm going to take the under on that. I'm not going to take 0, but I will take the under on 15%. Brian sends in a couple of super chat supports saying, thank you so much, Brian. I appreciate that. Mason Barr writes again, I'm hearing of Watchmen HBO show. Is it possible? Oh, no, they're moving ahead. There is a HBO Watchmen show coming. Yeah, it's in motion. I don't know that they have a release date or anything like that yet. I'm just not sure. They might, but it's a real thing. It is in motion. They are moving ahead with it. Devontae Brown writes, thought you'd understand my hypocrisy question. Oh, you're talking about from yesterday, Devontae. Because of current events, but I meant parts of Hollywood act liberal / forward, but shown as no better than us. Here's the thing, Devontae. What you're doing is you're doing guilt by association here. Because look, it's what you're saying here, Devontae, from my point of view at any rate, I'm not trying to discredit your point of view. I'm just saying this was mine, okay? Is that you could sit back and say, oh, America. There are terrorists in America. There are murderers and rapists and whatever. So America talks about being about freedom and all that kind of stuff, but all America is just rapists and terrorists but that's not true. Are there some people here who are? Yes, but that is not representative of us. Are there, as there are in any industry, are there monsters in sheep's clothing in Hollywood? Sure there are, yes. But I think it's far too simple to then just to paint a broad stroke and say, oh, that means Hollywood is this. No, it's not. There are individuals in it, just like there are individuals in any industry or any walk of life, that are monsters in sheep's clothing. But I think it's a mistake to take it then a broad brush and say, all of Hollywood is this. It's like, no, we've seen examples of about 0.001% of the actual people in this business who have done crap like that, which is still far too much. And the number is probably higher than that. I'm just throwing that out there for hyperbole. But it would be a mistake to then paint everything with one big brush. I think that's a mistake because Tom Hanks is Hollywood. Is he a hypocrite? I'm in Hollywood. Am I? Well, maybe I am a hypocrite. I don't know. But anyway, that's just the way I see it, Devontae. Curtis Lopez writes, was disappointed in the Venom trailer, to be honest. It might be a good movie, but I could have been happy with at least 3 seconds of Hardy as Venom. I disagree. Like, don't get me wrong, Curtis. Had they shown him as Venom, sure. Yeah, I would have eaten that up too. Movie's 8 months away. They wanted the focus of this to be on the sci-fi horror thriller aspect of it. And I really applaud that. I really applaud that. I think it was ballsy. I think it was gutsy. I think it was different. I was talking to one guy in the chat earlier who was saying, like, they should have just thrown in a little tag at the end with Venom coming out. And like, really? Just, that's the formula that so many others do. I'm kind of impressed that they didn't do it. I really am. So we'll see. And probably, look, the movie's still 8 months away. There's probably a lot of visual effects that are nowhere near completion at this point. Because, like, again, we're talking like 2/3 of a year away, this movie is. So there's probably a lot still there. Curtiston mentions, have you seen the anime movie Your Name? If you haven't, check it out. It's wonderful. Thank you for the recommendation, Curtis. I've never even heard of it. Well, no. I take that back. I have heard of it. But no, I have not seen it. Thank you for the recommendation. And thank you for giving the recommendation to everybody else. Intense and Sensitivity, I love that name, writes, is it weird or a problem going to the movies alone? No, I go to the movies by myself quite often. Anne's out. What do I want to do? I want to watch a movie, but I can't go because I'm by myself. Like I care. No, it's great, man. Go to the movies alone. That's wonderful. I go to, if I have some free time, I love running over to the theater and watching a movie, even if it's one I've seen a few times. Absolutely. SWGJR.87 writes, Deadpool and Venom. I'm happy. Love what you do. Thank you so much. And yeah, I'm very happy that I actually liked both trailers because there's a possibility maybe they both would have underwhelmed, but I'm quite happy with both of them. Donald Martinez writes, hey, John, big fan of the show. I was wondering, when will we get Castlevania Season 2? If I remember correctly, you really enjoyed Season 1. I did. I quite enjoyed Season 1. Correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, guys, but I think it was just like a week or two ago they announced Season 2. and when it's dropping. I believe there is an announced date. I don't remember it off the top of my head. Do a quick search for it, but I'm positive I remember them announcing a release date for season 2. Check it out. Hopefully it's more than just 4 episodes this time. Devontae Brown also writes, also don't know if you saw, but the video of Oscar's standing ovation for Pianist by Streep, Jack Nicholson, and others solidified my hesitation for Hollywood. But again, Devontae, you're taking... Remember, at the time when that happened, and I'm not going to go into it entirely here, because I talked about this with the whole Quentin Tarantino situation yesterday, but just basically this. There was wrong information that everybody was buying into at the time. This whole notion that why am I drawing a blank on the rapist's name? But anyway, there was this notion that he was wronged, that the judge railroaded him, and that and a lot of people were buying into that at the time. People that I do not believe buy into it anymore. So you got to take context into consideration, because it was the popular opinion. Polanski, that was it. It was the popular opinion at the time, which is why 9 years ago I made a really angry video about it, because everybody was getting behind Roman Polanski. Everybody was. The popular opinion, when I would talk about it on my website, even people would jump in saying, Roman Polanski was wrong, he was falsely this, falsely that, he didn't do anything. Everybody just believed that. As time passed and just the facts became more clear, people realized, oh, wait a minute, no, he was wrong. So it's difficult to judge people when everybody was thinking that at the time. And it's really, it's hard. Today, they would not back him, because I think today, now they understand the facts better. And so they would not back Roman Polanski today. At the time, it seemed different to them, so they went a different way. Look, that's what happens in life, man. You think one thing one day, you learn more information, and you change your mind. That's life. Anyway, so Intense Insensitivity writes, hey, John, I was wondering, have you ever fell asleep on a movie, not because you were tired, but because it sucked or was boring? Mine's I most remember are Chronicles of Riddick and The Return of Superman. I love Superman Returns. So no, honestly, I've never fallen asleep in a movie out of boredom. Actually, I've never fallen asleep in a movie ever. Partially because I actually take sleep aids. Ever since I was 14, I've always had a very difficult time falling asleep, even when I go to bed. It takes me like an hour to fall asleep. And some nights, like, until I started taking like sleep aids about 2 years ago, there would be like at least 3 nights a week that I would just be laying in bed awake till 4 or 5 in the morning. It was awful. So I finally started taking sleep aids, and now I actually sleep. But nope, never fallen asleep in a movie like that. Okay, Manuel Fernandez writes, John, thoughts on the new Jessica Jones Season 2 trailer? Not impressed. Not impressed by it at all. Seems very thin to me, but who knows? Maybe it'll be great. Anthony, also take that with a grain of salt, understanding that I'm one of the few people that didn't like Jessica Jones Season 1. So take my impression with a grain of salt. I'm still trying to look at the trailer on its own merits, but didn't hit me the right way. But that's just me. I'm sure a lot of people, you guys loved it. That's great, but it just didn't hit me the right way. Curtis Lopez writes, who's the worst comic book movie love interest? For me, it's Nicole Kidman from Batman Forever. Ooh, that's a tough one to top, man. Because that was a pretty bad one. You know what? Maybe if I thought about it, I would change my mind. But for now, I'm going to agree with you, Curtis. I'm going to go with Nicole Kidman in that one as well. Shankar Sakar writes, now that Elon Musk has beaten Vin Diesel to put a car in space, what do you think of the story of Fast 9 is going to be? Serious question. Oh, I have no idea. I have absolutely no clue. Nobody ever does. It's going to involve a heist of some sorts that only the team can pull off. But other than that, I have absolutely no concept, no clue whatsoever. I'm looking forward to it. I have fun with these movies, so I'm looking forward to watching it. But what the actual story is going to be, not a clue. Not a clue. President Evil writes, is Breaking Bad a true villain-centric story? No, not really, because he's not... He does villainish things, but they constantly try to make him... He struggles with the goodness of it. There's never been a show that is villain-centric. Because even him, like... Oh, what was the name of the character? The guy whose face he blows off. I mean, that was the villain. He's a guy... Breaking Bad is the guy, he's not evil. He makes wrong choices and stuff like that. But that's the thing. All these TV shows and movies that always said, oh, this one's about the bad guy, but they actually make him out to be the good guy who maybe has makes some questionable decisions, does some wrong things that they regret, all that kind of stuff. But I would not count Breaking Bad as about villain-centric at all. He's not truly the bad guy. If the show had been about the dude whose face he blew off, if the show was about him, then yes, the show would have been about the bad guy. But it's not really, not in the way I evaluate it at any rate. Thanks for the question, President. Chris Warden writes, smart move to set Venom in San Francisco instead of New York City. That way we're not constantly waiting for Spider-Man to show up. Well, I don't know if that was part of their motivation, but that will help. Having them on completely separate coasts will help, certainly. Again, maybe, for all we know, we don't know for sure that it's going to be set. Maybe just a few minutes of the movie set in San Francisco. Maybe the rest of it happens in Austin, Texas. I mean, I just don't know. But if it does work out there, you're right, Chris. That is a fringe benefit of them doing it that way. Intense and Sensitivity writes, John, do you think a lot of movies now are becoming too politically correct and force messages in them? I was watching Daddy's Home 2 and could not ignore that it was heavily throwing those things in. No, honestly, I don't. Look, you go back through, I think just more people today are more sensitive to that stuff. You go back and watch movies from the 80s and 70s, they're constantly throwing in what their definition of positive messages are. It's part of the movie. So no, I don't, it's just reflective of our culture. And I do not think I mean, does it happen sometimes? I'm sure it does. But overall, no, I disagree. I don't think movies are doing that. Orange Hand writes, so do you prefer a potentially flawed movie that takes risks and chances over an overall better executed movie that plays it safe? No, at the end of the day, to me, the better movie wins, regardless of whether it took risks or regardless of whether it played it safe. However, here's the thing. Let's say they both end up being equally good. I will be more impressed with the film that took chances to achieve that than the film that played it safe to achieve it. At the end of the day, it's still all about what's the better movie. That's what it's all about. But all other things being equal, I'll be far more impressed with the film that takes chances. And here's the thing, the film that takes chances gives itself a little bit of an edge in that you're going to be giving audiences something they're not used to seeing. Maybe it's not something they've never seen before, but you're giving them something they're not used to seeing. And when you can create a unique experience, that could be very advantageous. It could backfire on you. That's why it's called a risk. It could go bad, but if it goes right, it could be really advantageous. So I'm always more impressed with filmmakers who will take risks, but that just because you took a risk doesn't mean I'll give you a pass if your risk of a movie ended up not working. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, that's just the way I kind of see it. Good question, Orange. Prince Sarma writes, is Black Panther's 6.7 IMDb rating result of that Facebook group? What measure do you think IMDb can take to stop such hate crime? Well, it's not first of all, Prince, it's not a hate crime, okay? Take a step back. Let's be very cautious about throwing terms like that around. But once again, it is an example because Black Panther has not come out, right? Somebody was tweeting me about this the other day, and at the time, it was 6,000 people had voted. And I can tell you right now, 6,000 people have not seen the movie. Yes, right now it's getting close to 7,000 people have written reviews. 99% of them have not seen this movie. I'm going to guarantee you that. 99% of that almost 7,000 people who have registered votes have not seen Black Panther. And almost all of the votes are either 10 or 1. They're either 10 or 1. So how do I can't see how to open up, but almost all of them, it's all 1s or 10s. This is once again why user-submitted rating systems on IMDb, on Rotten Tomatoes, are completely useless. We've already got almost 7,000 votes from people who have not seen the movie. And they're either rating it 10, 10, 10, 10, or they're rating it 1, 1, 1, 1, depending on what, side of the battle line they're on. And it's just stupid. It's just stupid. That's why you should never pay attention to IMDb's rating system. Never pay attention to it. Because this is what happens. People who've not seen the movie go in there, register votes, and find ways to vote multiple times. So that's another reason why you should never take them seriously. Okay, let's see. Fox Mulder writes, if JJ retcons Luke's death so that he teleported and see him fight Knights of Ren / Army of Troopers, JJ will be the filmmaker equivalent of Tom Brady, the GOAT. Remember, hey, look, all we saw in the movie is Luke disappear, right? That's all we saw was him disappear. I still think there is a 5% chance, and granted that's small, but I think there's a 5% chance Luke's alive, and I'll be cheering for that. I'm okay if he's dead. That's fine, and they do good things with him as a Force ghost. That's cool too. But I really hope he's still alive. Samuel Varg writes, you mentioned you don't have kids. Reasons to do: 1, they sound like Jawas when they talk. 2, you can name after Star Wars characters, like my son, Ben. Don't laugh, Liam. No, my wife and I don't have kids yet, but we've already started talking about names. And believe me, some Star Wars names have come up. Trust me, they have. Thanks for the encouragement, Samuel. Juan Jones writes, why is rom-com movie genre dead? It's not dead, but everything goes in cycles. You know, they have hot streaks and a couple of bad ones in a row come out. They take a breather. Believe me, within the next couple of years, we're going to see a streak of rom-coms again. It's not dead, just that everything goes in cycles. Just like Westerns. You know, Westerns go in cycles. Gritty cop crime dramas go in cycles. So do rom-coms. So there'll be periods of streaks when they're the hottest thing, periods of streaks when we don't see many of them at all. Maha Norabe writes, when do you think Disney will make an animated movie where 2 boys or 2 girls fall in love? It's probably going to be a while. It's probably going to be a while because they don't believe yet that that movie could be really financially successful. And that's, remember, you're not asking the question, when would Disney want to do something like that? I'm sure many people at Disney would love to do it. But first and foremost, they're a business. And they have to evaluate whether or not the movie-going audience is ready to really go out on force. So it's up to us. You know, like I keep telling people, look, if you want more indie films made, or more original films made, then when the studios put out films with really original concepts, go out and support them. And I think when Disney starts to see that there's a business case that we can invest $200 million to make and market this movie, and we feel we can get a return on that investment, then they'll do it. It's all about the money. It is all about the money. It's about nothing else. If Disney thought, or if any studio thought, that we could make an animated film with 2 boys falling in love, and that movie would make us $500 million, every single studio would be pumping those movies out. It's all about the business case. And right now, they don't think that the market will support it. Hopefully, that will change. And then we'll see those types of changes. Until it happens, though, they are all about the numbers. To them, it's a business, and they need to treat it as such, and I understand that. But the moment they think, that they believe, and they see that the market is ready for it, to support that, and that they'll make money on it, they will crank that content out like crazy. You wait and see. Luis Francisco writes, Venom is rated R, right? I hope it is indeed in the MCU. I don't want it in the MCU. You know that. I'm sick and tired of every single superhero movie having to be connected to a cinematic universe. It sounds like they are loosely connecting it. I wish they wouldn't. I honestly don't know. I think they're rating it R, but I don't know that for sure. Curtis Lopez writes, since you grew up in Canada, have you ever seen the don't you put in your mouth PSA on TV? I do remember something like that as a little kid, seeing those, like Yellow Snow and stuff like that. I do. Carlos Cameo writes, what are the odds of Brady biopic ever? Oh, pretty good. Pretty good. Like, every once in a while, they love putting out biopics of either singers or famous athletes. Tom Brady, who is the greatest of all time, they will probably end up doing one of him too. Timothy West writes, prior to Infinity War, maybe you can do a retrospective video about the first 10 years of the MCU and the impact it's had on pop culture and film. I honestly, Timothy, I don't think there's need to, because I think 5,000 other video channels are going to do stuff like that. Not that there's anything wrong with 5,000 other video channels doing that, but it seems like a lot of work to do something that wouldn't be very unique. And it's not even my own voice, because it's just repeating the facts. And so I'm not sure I would do something like that. I mean, it's a video I would watch for sure when other people make them, inevitably. Definitely the videos I'll watch. I'm just not sure it's something I should do. Thanks for giving me ideas, though. Alan Gonzalez writes, hey, Johnny, have you ever gotten in too much into a movie that you can't watch it 1,000 times and still... Try that again. Hi, John. Have you ever gotten too much into a movie that you can watch it 1,000 times and still feel like it is the first time? For me, it's Shawshank Redemption and Back to the Future. Star Wars for me. The original Star Wars for me is really that movie. And Shawshank is definitely another, but Yeah, Star Wars is probably that movie for me. I just always watch it with wonder and awe. Anthony Ashmass just sends in a super chat to support. Thank you so much, Anthony. Appreciate that. Aaron writes, you got me to watch Creed. It's great. Thanks, John. I agree. I'm so glad you watched it. Creed is so good. And I was skeptical about it. A Rocky movie that's not about Rocky. Apollo Creed's son. Okay. So good. So good. And one of the reasons Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan doing Creed, also doing Black Panther. One of the other reasons you should be excited about Black Panther. All right. Samuel Varg writes, 3, you can pretend to be as wise as Yoda and teach them do or do not, there is no try. 4, it's just awesome to have a half clone of Mini-Me. Thank you, Samuel, for encouraging me and my wife to have children. I'm sure my mother thanks you. Rar Nation writes, the most underrated moment in The Last Jedi is when the Falcon goes into the cave and the TIE Fighters escape theme from A New Hope plays. I get chills every time. That was a great moment. It was just visually beautiful. And one of those scenes that will always look better on the big screen than at home no matter what, because you really feel like you're immersed into it. I love that scene. Kevin Bennett writes, greatest of all time. J.L. Curtis mirror scene in Trading Places or Phoebe Cates pool scene in Fast Times. Well, neither are the greatest of all time, but those are two great scenes. Hey, look, as a little boy, watching that Phoebe Cates pool scene in Fast Times, that sticks with you forever. There are men everywhere across the world right now hearing me say that, and you can all picture the scene. For good reason or for bad reason, that is a scene as a young guy, you watch that, and it sticks with you forever. So I'm going to go with that scene. Aaron writes, big fan from India. Did you catch all the Thanos references in the Deadpool trailer? My favorite was fine. I'll do it myself. I've got all the stones. You know what? I disagree with everybody on that. When Deadpool says, F it, I'll do it myself, that wasn't a reference to the Thanos line. The I'll do it myself is a line that has been said 10 million times in movies and television shows forever. And if he was really trying to make it a callback to a Thanos thing, he just would have said it like Thanos said it, which is, fine, I'll do it myself. Not F it, I'll do it myself. I think that's a stretch. The Stones reference is a different thing. Yes, I get the Stones reference, but I really disagree with everybody that the fine, I'll do it myself was any kind of a Thanos nod, because that's a very popular line that's been in a million movies, and it's just a standard saying. So I don't think everything was an address to Thanos. Christian Allman writes, Tom Hardy is my favorite actor. He won me over with his role in Warrior. Oh, he was so good in Warrior. I've been following his career ever since. This teaser excites me for Venom. I'm right with you, Christian. I mean, of course, Warrior, he was so good in. Bronson, he was so good in. He's solid in everything. Everything he's in, he just always brings a solid performance, which is exciting. Kevin Newman writes, the Game of Thrones writers' backlash is probably related to the slavery TV show they pitched. Well, I mean, look, I get it. They were pitching like this idea of a horrible future where what happens if in the American Civil War, the South won? You know, it was approached as like a bad thing. But there was a lot of backlash against that. And I get it. I do. Like, and I'm not going to pretend to know enough about the what was really going to go into the show to understand it, but I understood the backlash too. So I don't know if it's connected. I'm not seeing anybody drawing any lines, but maybe, Kevin, you're right. Maybe that is another thing. NV8 Pride just sends in a super chat. ToonieTube writes, I hate Deadpool, don't like the first movie, don't like the actor, but I hope for the fans, the new movie is great and make lots of money. You know what, Toonie? That's a healthy attitude for a film fan. Something I don't like, and I'm not going to say that I do like it. I don't like it. But you know what? It's out there. Some of you enjoy it. I hope you love it. I hope you have a great time. I wish more film fans had that attitude. Like, instead of trying to convince everybody why they shouldn't like something they like, just going, hey, I don't like it, but I'm thrilled you like it, and I hope this new movie is great so you can enjoy it even more. That's a really healthy attitude that I wish more film fans had. I wish more DC fans would go, you know what, I don't like the Marvel films, but I hope this next Marvel movie is great because I want you fans of Marvel to love it. I wish more Marvel fans would say, you know what, I don't like the DCEU so far, but you know what, I hope they make great movies moving forward because I want you guys who are DC fans to love your time at the theater. That's healthy fandom. Acknowledging what you like and don't like, but hoping for the best for everybody else, not trying to talk people out of something that they love. That's healthy fandom. Thanks a lot for the comment, Tooney. Where did it go? Here goes. I can't think of a good username. Writes, hey John, how did Obi-Wan defeat a young Darth Maul, but keeps getting his ass kicked by 90-year-old Count Dooku in Clones and Sith? Well, remember, he kind of cheaply won that fight against Darth Maul. Because remember, he and Qui-Gon were going at Darth Maul at the same time. It was 2-on-1, and Darth Maul was winning. And other than a last-second finger grab, Maul beat him. And they just sat around. Then he did this one lucky flip and whatever, and was able to catch Maul off guard. But he barely got through that. Dooku, they had the same kind of situation, but I don't know that he got his ass handed to. Dooku was just a powerful Force user. And remember, it was a 2-on-1 fight with Liam Neeson, and Maul was beating them both. So I don't think you're evaluating the two scenarios properly. I think you understand they're not equal scenarios. They were kind of different things. And the last question I'm going to take today comes from N8V Pride 161. Again, this is what I said was going to be the last question of the day. Patrick Bateman as Bill, Adam Scott as Eddie in It 2. I've seen lots of fan castings for that. And look, you know me. If it's a good actor, I like Adam Scott. I like Patrick Bateman. Sure. To me, that's fine. Those guys will work fine. There are a few other questions there, guys, but I did say that the N8V one was the last one I was going to take. I will get to those other questions to start off open mic a little bit later today. Of course, open mic is on at 3 p.m. Los Angeles time. That's 6 p.m. New York time. And those remaining questions will be the first ones that I address on open mic a little bit later today. Big breath. Okay, guys, shameless plug. Listen, if you enjoy watching my content, please go on over to www.patreon.com/John Campea. Get all the information about what it means to be a Patreon supporter, how being a Patreon supporter keeps my show on the air, and the benefits of being a Patreon supporter. Maybe you'll become one of my Patreon supporters. Also, don't forget, click the thumbs up button, leave a comment down below, and make sure, of course, guys, you come back for open mic a little bit later today. Of course, a little bit later today, I also have my review for 50 Shades Freed. I know you've been waiting for that to go up, and of course my trailer breakdown for Venom. So that'll do it for me for today, guys. Thanks so much for joining me. My name's John Campea, and until the next video, bye-bye.